Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to welcome everyone to the 2014 Hall of Fame ceremony and summer end party, brought to you by VC Ultimate, Steam Whistle Pilsner, and Whistler's Grill. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
I just want to say it's my pleasure to welcome Allison to the Hall of Fame. I've had the privilege of witnessing what it is that has caused Allison to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Her passion and her intensity and her grit and her hard work are almost unequivocal. I don't know anyone else who plays the way that Walker does. She's always a leader by example. Someone said it best, one of my fellow teammates said that she's the epitome of practice what you preach. She's led by example. She's always inspiring and motivating her teammates and her opponents, for that matter, to play harder and to be better. I played with Walker when we were playing in nationals for a world's bid. It's not hard for a lot of people to play hard and to play with all they've got when it's a game like that on the line. But I've also been with Walker down at UPA's when it's a short bench, we're sore and we're tired, and we're playing for 9th place. And at that point, does it matter if we come in 9th or 10th? And you're on the sideline and you're sore and you're just like, yeah, let's just get this game over with. And you look out on the field and Walker is playing her guts out, playing with 150%. So the next time you go on the field, you're laying out on D because you can't let that teammate of yours down. And that is what she inspired in everyone at that moment. And that's a hard thing, I think. So I think that's pretty much sums up what Walker is and how she is as a player. She is inspiration, and she's a great example of what hard work and determination, what you can achieve with that. It is my honor and my privilege and my great pleasure to welcome Allison Walker to the Hall of Fame.
You have very few times to speak publicly to thank your family for being so fabulous. So my family really has always supported me through everything, and including this crazy sport we were crazy about. So thank you so much. Really three groups of people, those that came before me and us. When I went to the Hall of Fame in 2010, I have to tell you, I knew nothing about what Monica and some of the others had done, particularly for women in this sport. And I cried that night. I was just so impressed. And we can't thank enough those that came before us. My teammates that went through all this with me, and I wasn't always that fun on the field, but I was always intense and I always had their best interests in mind. But all of my teammates, and some of you are here today, thank you so much. It was 10 amazing years and they will continue. I'd love to spend some time coaching. I've always got the red eye, so we're not done yet. And then, of course, those that are coming after us. I'm always inspired. It was fun to follow what was going on in Fresco, and there's so many inspiring players coming now, and hopefully we all had a little part of that. So thanks, everyone, for coming, and I appreciate getting to go first so that these guys could share it. So have a great night.
This is Brian Parkinson. Most of us who knew him like to call him Parky. Brian, it's also my pleasure to welcome Brian into the TUC Hall of Fame in the category of builder. I feel like sometimes builders are the unsung heroes. Parky is mainly being honored here tonight for almost single-handedly carrying the burden, a tremendous burden actually, of building the TUC website. When I speak to Dan Berman, who was the president at that time, Dan said that he thinks communication technology change invigorated the TUC with its growth. It was growing exponentially at the time. There were a lot of headaches involved with it. It helped inspire a surge upward in terms of numbers, but also enhance the depth of communication between the TUC and its membership. And Brian saw the need there and knew that he was someone that could do something about it. And he jumped right in and said, okay, I'll do it. And I just think that he's just an unsung hero in that sense. That alone could be enough for him to get into the TUC Hall of Fame in terms of a builder. On top of that, Brian also was the first league convener for the Fall League, and he was also the first league convener for the Winter League, and he also started the Zodiac tournament with his good friend Bob Anglin. Needless to say, Brian created a lot of opportunities for new players to come into the sport and learn about the sport. With the Winter League in particular, he set it up so that it was a hat system, or captains were chosen and then teams were formed to be as equal as possible, and this was to allow new players to play with experienced players. So Brian never lost sight of the fun of the game and the pure joy of ultimate, the spirit. I mean, the Viking hat says it all right over there, but that's what, like, Brian made every moment of playing with him fun. I welcome Brian to the TUC Hall of Fame in the builder category.
I'll keep this really brief. Thank you very much for the honor. Monica said that I was an unsung hero, which I really don't think is exactly true. I think it's more just being a combination of a nerd and an idiot to want to take this on. So it's not only me that's here. I think in a certain sense, or in a very big sense, I represent the larger community of what I was trying to do. Not only was it me that was doing this, at the time there was the board of directors, and it's the larger ultimate community really that brought the whole thing in. It's a fantastic sport, and I'm very proud to have been involved in sort of these early formative years of the sport. Thank you.
Michael did his Bachelor's of Commerce at Dalhousie and then finished his law degree at York University at Osgoode Hall Law School. And, when we were playing Ultimate together with both Michael, Jeff, and a lot of the guys that were on the Wild Thing teams, the games were really long. It was hard. Sometimes you'd make a call and you'd have to go through frickin' court proceedings to get resolve on stuff. So Michael started playing late 80s, early 90s. Team he was on was Wild Thing. You can see on the Toronto Ultimate Club's trophy there that they won in 89, 90. At the time, we were called the Toronto Ultimate League. And, we were a budding, growing entity. And both Michael and Jeff Tabor came to the table and brought a new sense and helped us grow to a new plateau and a new sense of understanding and a higher level of play. Michael was able to bring a lot of friends and colleagues from various other sports, football and rugby, and had the insight to seek out women that were good athletes and invite them to come out and play, which encouraged more women to come out and play and brought the level of all the female players to a higher level, which was quite a great thing at the time and helped us go from a 6-1 ratio to a 5-2 ratio. It was just important that we had new stewards and they had passion and they were good players and good guys, and I'd like to invite Michael Solway up to receive his award for Builder.
Well, thank you. I will be brief as others have tried to be. We took over running the league pre the internet, which some people will still remember the fax and phone age. And so we went from what was a very small league at that point to not too large a league, but it started to grow quite significantly, and we put our passion to it and brought a lot of people into the game. And I'd just like to thank the people who've taken it over the years, and what a great job Jason is doing in making the brand well known throughout the city and the schools and in all walks of community, all of the communities. Thank you.
So unfortunately, Jeff Tabor is not able to attend this evening's proceedings, and that's unfortunate. Similarly, like Mike, they worked together hand in hand as they grew the league at the point when it was handed off to them. And Jeff had a different sort of athletic group that he brought in. He was a little taller and slimmer, and he brought in a basketball crew. So there was a lot of guys that were the tall guys deep in the end zones that they had. And it was, a great period when, we just had bodies that were out there in the early days. And then we started getting, various sets of people there. We were positioning on the field based on their heights and their skills and so forth. And between Mike and Jeff, they made a difference in bringing a whole new athletic group to the field. I know that they did play different roles in helping to grow the league from the standpoint of builders, not only speaking of them as players. And Jeff was an integral part, and Mike and Jeff worked hand in hand, again, as I say, in helping to bring the club to a new level. So without Jeff being here, I guess all we can say is welcome to the club and good work, and hopefully next time around he'll be here to say some words in the future.
For some of you who don't know, Joe and I are best friends for a long, long time, so there's no bias at all in this. Go back with me, 1990, one Toronto Men's Open team. We're at Rose Hill Reservoir practicing, and we're practicing hard because we're going to Boston that next weekend. We're doing drills, and back then I was one of the leaders on the team, so we look and there's this guy standing on the side of the field with another guy, and I walk over and say, yeah, can we play with you guys? And I said to him, sorry, this is Men's Open, and we're practicing, and maybe you want to join on Wednesday night's league. And he retells it to me differently, even to this day. Years later, he tells it that I told him to get lost, kid. But he came back that next practice, and he played with us, and when we watched him, the words that we were saying to ourselves were intensity, determination, never quitting on a disc. And that summer, he made it onto the Toronto men's team, first time out. The next year, we went to Worlds, and he went with us, and he was a standout on the team. And a funny story is that we assigned rooms, and this is another side of Joe, is at that time we assigned rooms, and there was a pecking order, and the top people get to pick the rooms and who they bunk with. And it came down to the end, and Joe was the newbie, so nobody wanted to bunk with him. So I said, okay, it ended up, I bunked with him. That is the other side of Joe that's great, and I think that's something very important everybody in this room recognizes. He parties like a fiend. Our room became party central at the dorms in Wisconsin. It was from that room that the beer flowed past midnight and the naked ultimate on the rainy storm happened. Joe Aces. So not only does he play great, he parties great. Talking about his playing, Joe went on to establish a dynasty in Toronto, I think one of the first dynasties in the Tuck League playing with Synergy. They went into the finals for 6 years in a row. I mean, that's pretty good. 6 years in a row, and they won 3 of the championships in a row. In 1994, he was league MVP. And if you do the math, 1990, he started 4 years already, and he's the league MVP. So that says something about him. Also in 1993, 1994, Joe volunteered in the administration of the league because he also cared about the league itself. And after Synergy, he joined another team, luckily, the team I play on, and he's helped take this team to semifinals or finals almost every year since then. And that's something that the team and the league is really grateful for, Joe. Talking Toronto Men's Open, he was one of the major forces on the Open team for so many years. Here's the list. 12 nationals, leadership of Toronto Open from 1994 to 97. One of the core of Yes, which later became GOAT. Championships, I started to list them, and I said it was going to go on too long, how many tournaments he's won, both in Canada and the States. He's being asked to play with other touring teams in other countries, and I think that's a big recognition when they recognize this one player from Toronto. And he was selected by other cities who had the bid to go play on Team Canada. And he won bronze, silver, and gold at the World Championships. And even at 50 years old, Joe represented Toronto in the Worlds in 2008 as one of the key players on Tombstone when they won silver.
Lisa?
He's 50 now, so let's just go with it. How about this? I got this right, Joe. This year, Joe begins his 25th year as a player in the Tuck. He's had a quarter century of achievements, which has earned you a place in the Hall of Fame. And he's still playing hard with the best of them on Wednesday night, and I think there's still more to come. So please join me in welcoming Joe Azes to the Hall of Fame.
Thanks a lot, you guys. It's great to see everybody out. Great to see a lot of old faces, many of whom aren't 22, 23, those of which are that I see on the ultimate field still these days, which it's getting harder and harder. But I know years ago I said, I think 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, I said, you know, I'm going to keep playing league as long as I'm able. And this is when guys were, you know, poo-pooing the league. It's like, oh, well, I only play touring, and, you know, league's so lame and whatever. I'm not gonna play league anymore. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep playing as long as I can. I love ultimate, and that's the thing that I'm sure, you know, most of you guys who play, and if you're still playing, if you're not still playing, but it kept you going for a long time was the passion for the game, the uniqueness of ultimate. And it's something that I've always loved, and as Jim said, I'm going to keep playing until I can't really play any. I mean, a lot of people have injuries, and I've been very fortunate to be pretty injury-free over my career, and I've been very, very lucky. I want to thank Allison, and some of the other people before me have thanked the organizers. I mean, you know, it's awesome to be able to go out week after week, whether you're playing league or touring ultimate. There's people behind the scenes doing the organizing, and it's such an amazing, you know, situation to be able to go out and just play ultimate and do the thing that you love doing over and over and over without having to worry. And there's all these people behind the scenes that are organizing, you know, booking fields and building websites, and I really want to thank all the builders that have gone before me, and I'm also really glad to know a lot of those people over the years, like Mike Solway and Jeff Tabor, Jim Lim, Monica, and to be able to play with them and go to tournaments with them and see the world playing ultimate. You know, many times I've thought it's only ultimate, and we had friends, you know, that we often called our winter friends, who wouldn't see us in the summer at all because we were going to tournaments and playing all the time, practicing. And they called the sport cultimate because they didn't understand it and because they never saw us. It's a lot more than that. And, you know, for these builders to have the foresight to see the sport 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, and say, this can be something big. And so we really have to thank them for building it up to where we are today. And in Toronto, I mean, there's hundreds of teams, and the touring divisions are amazing. So it's fantastic. So I really want to thank those guys because they had the foresight. And there's lots of people like me who just went out and played and had fun and, you know, took advantage of all their hard work. To be considered in the same company as those who've gone before me, I feel very, very grateful and thankful. Certainly tonight, Allison and Simo, it's a great honor to be included with you guys this year. Legendary players. The social part of Ultimate is what I think a lot of us love. And I mean, I met my lovely wife Lisa here playing Ultimate, and A lot of our friends I know got married to people they met playing Ultimate. So it's been a fantastic part of our lives, and certainly hope that continues. But I do want to thank everybody involved, and it's been great fun, and I hope to keep playing. Thanks a lot.
Jeff, he was an instant game changer. As soon as he stepped on the field, he caught everything that was thrown long, caught everything that was underthrown, he caught everything that was overthrown, he caught everything. Jeff was, how do you say Jeff? You could win a game with Jeff on your team. I think that sums it up. Many people have said that about him. Forget about hucking against him if he's on D, because even if it wasn't to his player, somehow he'd streak across the field and still sky it. I think anybody who's played with Jeff can have a memory of that situation happening. He also became a top handler and leader, captaining another dynasty team called Pull Pee Wee Pull. They reached semis or finals every year from 1997 to 2006. That's a 8-9-year run. They won league championships 2000 and 2004, and Jeff was MVP at least once. Maybe he can correct us more than that. And he still dominates on the field on Wednesday night. I'd say he is unquestionably probably our strongest player on Wednesday night in our team. I think everybody in this room knows Jeff, and if you lined up against him on the field, you'd be saying, who's going to take Jeff? He also toured for Toronto, playing on many teams, Bad, and too bad Harry's not here, because Harry's proud to have introduced Jeff to touring with Bad, Pam, Joystick. He captained Rebellion, Yes, and GOAT. But I think, Jeff, one of the achievements you'd be most proud of is being that group of players who established a touring system, an open touring system that built players up and up and up. And that contributed a lot to the success of teams like GT and GOAT today and what we have. Before that, it was just everybody doing their own thing. And Jeff and his colleagues at the time put it all together into one. And now Toronto, congratulations to GOAT, by the way, Jeff, who just finished a fantastic run down in Texas. Jeff has won Canadian Nats twice, many tournaments like Joe, Tut, No Borders, Boston, Jazz Fest, Goose Bowl. He was one of the first Torontonians to make it to UPA finals. And again, he was one of the leaders of the team. He won the silver medal at Worlds in 2008, along with Joe. Not only recognized for his ability to take over the game and lead teams to victory, Jeff has always been respected for his character and his spirit. I don't think anybody here can say that Jeff has ever gotten into a really bad argument with anybody. He always takes the high road. He's brought many people into the sport, and he's taught hundreds how to play. He's been one of the top players in Toronto Ultimate for over 20 years. And if I can quote another Toronto Ultimate player, highly respected as one of the best in the world, John Hassel says of Jeff, there are players who have athletics and people who have skills. Jeff has both, and he's been that way in Toronto for forever. Jeff Simonette, please join us in the Hall of Fame.
Thanks, Jim, for the overly kind words. First, I'd like to congratulate all this year's inductees. It's truly an honor and a privilege, even to be considered in such an accomplished and talented and frankly very attractive group. Indulge me a minute while I take you a few years back, far too many years back. In university, I tried out for both the basketball and the volleyball teams, and sadly was cut from both. But I remember thinking at the time, there must be a sport out there somewhere that's obscure enough and a little less developed, and preferably without referees, where I may be able to make the team. Thank you, Ultimate Frisbee. Then for 21 years, I played a lot of Ultimate. From Flatliners to Pull Pee Wee Pull to Hot Cousin, from Bad to Pam to Orange Crush to Rebellion to Yes to Goat to Joystick to Tombstone, and I'm probably several teams in between that I'm forgetting. I can't count how many long hucks that I've chased down from the hands of a List or a Lang or a Lewis or a Lil or a Lim, and that's just the L's. Yet, the year that I hang up the cleats, the year that I stopped playing entirely, I get honored by the league. I think there's a message there. But it is a great honor. I guess lastly, there's a lot of people to thank, and like Joe, I'm going to forget everybody's names, so maybe I'll do it in groups. But certainly for the friends and family that are here to support me tonight and have been there for the 21 years. Of course, my wife, Tracy, a very accomplished ultimate player in her own right. And someone who briefly allowed me to hang my collection of discs on our wall. I look at it as each one is a piece of artwork. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee, of course. I know it's a very difficult task making the selections, and if I may say so, I think you made some good choices. I'd like to thank all the people present and past who have built and operated and run Toronto Ultimate. I mean, it's a huge and often thankless job, one that I haven't really been that much a part of. I think these are the real Hall of Famers. And because of their efforts, Ultimate is no longer an obscure and less developed sport. And frankly, I can't wait to see in the next 21 years the talent of the people that are inducted into the Hall of Fame, because it has grown so much. Again, thanks to everyone.
This is about a special merit induction, and it is for the team beaches. I'm going to go over it pretty lightly, but I'm also going to call up two members of that team, Jim and Chris, who we've heard from today, to tell you a bit more about it. But it all started way back in the day. There were a bunch of folks who just decided to play Frisbee, and this wasn't just Ultimate. There was Guts. There were a bunch of other games. I'm sure there was some Flip Cup happening too. And it was all centered around one of the inaugural Hall of Fame members, Ken Westerfield. As this group grew, there was a game, and they played a game. And then there were two games because there were so many people, and that one Wednesday every week is what grew eventually into the Toronto Ultimate League. They split out. There were 4 teams. I'm going to butcher their names, but let me just say that there were 4 teams. Some came, some stayed around for a little while, some only lasted a couple of years. The Beaches team did stay together, and through various incarnations, 35 years later, still plays his hot cousin, even with a couple of those original players on it. There's a lot of hot cousin tonight, but what we've seen is that many of the top names of that team, many top players through Toronto Ultimate, Hall of Fame members for sure, have started their careers where they're played for members of the Beaches franchise. But certainly what I find, and it's been reflected in speeches by Joe and Jeff and others, and Allison as well, as I recall, that what I appreciate is so many of the people that have come through that Beaches system became some of the founding and continuing administrators of the Toronto Ultimate League and later the Toronto Ultimate Club. And their work, it all started with Beaches. They were the original seed, and what we have here today is a direct result of that team and that group of folks coming together to play pickup. To tell us more about it, Jim Lim and Chris Lowcock.
So we're going to keep it very short. I think we're lucky to be here to accept the award on behalf of everybody who's played on the Beaches team. It is an entity and almost a franchise that we're just lucky enough that the people who played on this team love the sport so much and love the league so much that we stayed together, which is a testament to, I think, everybody in this room of why we're here tonight and why we keep playing. There's nobody that we're going to mention on that team because there are hundreds on that team, and it wouldn't be fair, except for Ken Westerfield, who you all know is one of the first people, I consider the first inductee in the Hall of Fame. It was him. It was just him who brought Ultimate to Toronto and brought the Beaches people together to make this first team. And luckily, today, we're still together. And that's an honor. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. Yep, Ken was a very special soul, and we love him. You know, every time we talk about him, we had great times with Ken. Ken's still around, down in the States these days. In putting this all together and working through trying to figure out what we were going to do and so forth, we had some communications with some people that were part of the original Beaches scene, and just sharing some of their comments. One individual responded with an email saying that unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight, but it was an honor and a privilege to know and be of knowledge that this team was getting this award, and reflected upon the times of going down to the beach, and Jim had mentioned it, that we were playing all sorts of disc sports, and Ultimate was one of them, and that it is very special to have this team honored. And he talked about enduring friendships, that the people that he played disc with in those days, he still considers some of his best friends, and he continues to play in various sports himself that are disc related, and you know, the cycle continues. So that's sort of part of the Beaches scene, that life goes on, and disc play continues from those people that started it all. Thank you, and it's a privilege to be here again this evening and to accept this on behalf of the Beaches team.
All right, if you'll indulge us for a second, I'd just like to ask all the newly inducted members of the Hall of Fame to come up for a quick photograph, and as well members of the Hall of Fame committee for right after them.